On the 29th of November 2024, the Feast of All Saints of the Franciscan Family, the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem published the Letter to the Entire Diocese and the edict signed by the Patriarch Cardinal Pierbattista Pizzaballa to officially inform all the faithful of the opening of the cause of beatification. These documents make known the correct norms and fulfillments according to canon law. Vice-Postulator Brother Ulise Zarza, of the Custody of the Holy Land, explains the significance of these procedures and helps us to know more about the personal story of this future saint of the Church.
Con questo editto, il Patriarca accetta ufficialmente.
By publishing the edict, the Patriarch officially accepts the request presented by the Postulator General of the Order of Friars Minor, Father Gianni Califano, and he starts the process in the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem. At the same time, he informs all the faithful of the diocese that the Patriarch intends to open this cause. And he also asks for cooperation in gathering all the documentation, all the news, all the testimonies that can be both for and against. Pope Francis said that the most beautiful face of the Church is holiness. Men and women who have sought to respond to the Lord's call and have faithfully followed him in their own state of life. Their witness helps everyone to be faithful to their own call to holiness, which began on the day of their baptism. And it is very striking that 80 years later, Sister Mary of the Trinity continues to attract. She continues to encourage so many brothers, so many sisters to respond to this call to holiness. In fact, we know this from her testimony, which comes and touches the hearts of so many people. Her life given, her contemplative life, and above all, the relationship she had with the Lord in prayer. Of her, explains Brother Ulysses, we can remember the whole path of her interior search for the Lord. Born into a Calvinist Protestant family, as a laywoman she later turned away from the faith and went through very difficult periods of darkness, inner darkness, and even sin. In fact, it is known that she had an emotional relationship with a married man. Then she went through a very strong moment of crisis, and on a February night she felt the presence of a nun, she tells us, wearing a brown habit in her room. That experience marked the moment when she met the Lord again. Two desires characterized his life: a strong attraction towards the Eucharist, that is, to receive the Eucharist and then to give himself up to the contemplative life, to live in the cloister. This, I think, is the first lesson that his life leaves us. In spite of crises, in spite of sin, it is the Lord who takes the initiative, searches for his lost sheep, and also gives them the grace of conversion, which is the path that St. Mary of the Trinity took. In Milan, she received baptism and finally received the Eucharist. After several attempts to enter other congregations, she arrives here in Jerusalem, and just as she enters the monastery, she finds the Eucharist, the Blessed Sacrament, exposed. And this was a very strong sign for her. But then she also begins to hear the inner voice, a mysterious voice, which is identified with the Lord, which leads her to a much deeper self-giving. In fact, she makes a vow of victim to the Lord, which she then explains as follows. It is a way of giving oneself up in silence. It is a way of imitating the Eucharistic life. St. Mary of the Trinity died in the St Clare Monastery on the 25th of June 1942 in the early hours of the afternoon. The following day, the funeral was celebrated with the participation of many Franciscan fathers from the convent of St. Saviour, clerics and children. Her grave is currently in the small cemetery inside the monastery. She certainly collaborated, but the Lord did a work of grace, mercy and holiness in her life. She allowed herself to be molded. She allowed herself to be shaped by this grace, and now her holiness shines through. Her holiness also attracts many souls to a greater donation in the Church.